Ashley.
Hey, everybody.
Ashley.
Hey, Ashley.
Hey. Deb, how you feeling?
Oh, I'm making it. Where's Deb? Is she here?
I see your name.
Do you? Then she's here. Can we go ahead and
It
call
says
the meeting?
joining.
Oh, it says joining. Let's go ahead and call the
Deb.
meeting to order then.
Comes.
There she is.
And
Yep.
Melissa, if you would do roll call,
Yes, ma'am. Deborah Wilson.
present.
Jason Tipton.
Is it?
Ashley Hickok.
Present.
Deb Mercer.
Present.
Vanessa McCutcheon. All right, you have a quorum.
Have any public comments for this meeting?
No, ma'am, not at this time.
Okay, then let's just go right ahead to our discussion item, which is to discuss the middle school next phase learning model. And Rudy, I'm just going to let you describe what you would like to do about that.
Well, in light of recent legislative changes and moves by the governor and Department of Health and Human Services, we now have the opportunity to bring our middle school into a Plan A operation like our K-5 students. Previously, we were under different guidelines. Even a couple of weeks ago, when the state passed the legislation without including charter schools in there, we were having to follow the previous guidelines from the Department of Health and Human Services. And there needed to be new legislation that would allow us to consider coming in with our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders to Plan A. Since then, Department of Health and Human Services have changed their guidelines for operations of schools. So even currently with there's a House bill that I guess is still on the legislative floor that is directed towards allowing charter school, middle and high schools to come into Plan A if they so choose. The new guidelines with the Department of Health and Human Services in the school operations school kit makes that opportunity for us even before that legislation gets passed. So we're clear on two fronts really to move into Plan A operation with our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, legislation government wise. So the discussion really is, when, how does the board want us to accomplish that? Assuming that's, I want to make assumptions that's what you want us to do. But if you did, I think the best way to kind of go about that for us would be to begin next week is spring break. Nobody wants to come to school next week at all, no matter what. Next week, you have the board has decided we would operate remotely. And so we'll be remote that the week after that. And so the week following that, April the 12th, would be, I guess, my recommendation or my thought that if we're going to move to Plan A with middle school, to begin middle school Plan A 4 days a week starting April the 12th. I think that would be the day before your next scheduled board meeting. It's April 13th, and we'd have a couple of days in and be able to give you some feedback of how it's going at that next board meeting. But that would be my I guess my suggestion. I don't know if that's the right word for it or not. That would give us like 6 weeks of school. And if I'm counting that right, I kind of get that my count's wrong because I'm concentrating on EOGs. Last 2 weeks of school are EOGs. So if we came in the 12th, I think we would have 6 full weeks. No, we'd have 5 full weeks before. We have 7 weeks of school left. 5 we would have in like normal, and then the last 2 weeks of school are really just going to be EOG testing because of the way we're going to have to do it this year. It's going to operate a little differently in years past, so we're going to have to take a good chunk of time. Our K2 scholars are probably going to have to be remote for a couple of days so we can have the whole building for testing and things like that. But I plan to present all that to you on April 13th, that plan. So I just went to my March testing meeting today. So I haven't got all that together yet, but that would be what if you're going to bring us in, I would say April the 12th. And hopefully, without any snafus through the end of the school year.
And my question is this with the minimum social distancing?
This would have to be
Okay.
minimum social distancing. Because you wouldn't be able to bring this many middle schoolers in without it. There's no way we could bring in more middle schoolers and keep that 6 foot social distancing. We can do it with the minimal amount of social distancing, still requiring masks to be worn by everyone that comes in. We'll continue probably with the health screenings, even though they are lessening some of those restrictions as well, like not requiring you to take temperatures coming in. We're deciding whether or not we're going to continue that. Because of the weeks and weeks that we've been taking temperatures, we have not found a single person with a temperature to send back home. Not one. As we
So if they take that, if that comes out in the legislation that the requirement to take temperatures is not mandated and the legislation passes before we do April 12th, then that would be a requirement we wouldn't need to do, right?
Correct. In fact, that's already happened. That's in the new
one.
School operations kit, that's kind of no longer required. Won't hurt. I mean, it still gives schools the option if they want to. You still have the option to be more restrictive, require health screening, require temperature, so you can if you want to, but it's not required. Up until then, it's been required.
Do you see us going to a 5-day week anytime soon?
Possibly. I mean, I would like to get days under our belt with middle school in 4 days a week. And then we're only looking at, the way I would see it, if we had middle school 2 days or 2 weeks of that, we'd only have 3 Wednesdays left before we hit EOGs. I don't even know if it's worth the change.
Well, that's what I'm asking, because can we, is it going to be legal for us as a charter school to continue with the 4 days?
Yes, because we're not required to go to Plan A.
Okay.
So if the board decided, no, we don't want to move middle school in, and we're fine still at Plan B.
Okay.
So what we would be doing is kind of a hybrid of Plan A, B with 4 days a week, which is perfectly acceptable, because Plan B is perfectly acceptable. So we don't have to come in 5 days a week.
Okay. Questions for Judy?
Sorry, Deborah.
No, go.
Asking, how do the teachers, the middle school teachers, feel about 4 days a week?
I haven't taken another poll lately. I think we kind of believe that this is kind of where we're headed, and that it was eventually going to happen. I think it's probably happened later than we thought it would happen. I mean, middle school K5 came in February 5th, and we figured we would be in probably well before April. So I think they're ready. They'll have next week off. The next week will be remote, and so they would be able to work here at school and prepare, make preparations at school for the kids coming in. And we'd be in for 4 days on the 12th through the 16th, and on the 19th we have a teacher work day here, so we get a break after that. We can reeval. see what happens, and we can create a little space for discussion. So it's timing wise, it's a really good spot to come in, but again, that's it. Discretion of the board.
Other questions, comments? Deb, how are you feeling about all this?
I feel good. I think this is it. I would be concerned if we tried to go to 5 days a week while our teachers are still teaching remotely. I think that would be a big ask. But yeah, I think it's time. I mean, cases have certainly gone down, and parents still have the option of keeping their children remote. So I think that's what middle school parents want and have wanted. So I feel good about that.
Okay, thanks, because that's what I wanted to know. You're in the middle school world now, and I know. Anybody else have questions for Rudy?
How is the ratio looking of parents who in middle school picking all virtual to back to in person? What's the ratio there?
Well, each grade level is a little different. 7th grade has the most, and I can't remember the numbers right off the top of my head, but they would be the most crowded in person. They have about 22, I want to say 22 of their scholars not coming. 6th grade and 8th grade have more than a third still working remotely. So they wouldn't be near as crowded as 7th. 7th's going to be tight. Won't be tight like 4th grade tight, but it's going to be tight. And then with middle school, some classes will be fuller than others just because it depends on if you have got your Math 1 class and you have more people coming in, then so that class might be a little more crowded than the others, but that's going to be kind of random depending on what parents have selected what.
And what about people wanting to switch from in person to virtual? Are we going to be okay with that?
Well, we would give that option. I mean, they haven't communicated that to families, and it would be you contact your dean. It would be the same thing we've done with everyone else.
Okay.
And so if we saw a big influx of people coming into the school, again, it's for a pretty short amount of time with the remainder of the school year. But yeah, we would, I would put out communication, depending on what action you guys take. I would put out communication tomorrow, and then probably have, here's how if you want to change, if you're uncomfortable, you don't want that many people with you and you want to switch to remote, we can do that.
And we still want them to be sure to contact you with questions or issues, and not Deb.
Sure.
Other questions or comments from anyone? Are we ready to have a resolution? Because I would say resolution could be April 12th, bring middle school students back to school 4 days a week. Masks are required, and optional temperature taking will be carried out. Is that everything? Does that cover it, Rudy?
Yeah, I don't know that you need to put anything about the mask or the temperature in there. But,
okay, because you call that following the.
It's the Department of Health and Human Services puts together a toolkit for reopening schools. They put it out in, maybe last summer, and have updated it a couple of times. And the last update took away the 6 foot required social distancing, the requirement of temperature screenings and whatnot. So you don't really need that as part of the resolution unless you want to put it in there as part of the resolution.
Okay, so how about this? On April 12th, middle school students will return to school 4 days a week with following the toolkit guidelines for their safe return. Anyone want to add or subtract? Can we have a second, please?
Second,
Second.
third,
You all in favor of a resolution to bring our students, our middle school students, back in for 4 days a week on April the 12th, please say aye.
aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Okay, looks like we've done it. And board members, do you have any other comments, suggestions, or anything else? Okay, then. We will be seeing each other again on April the 13th. And I'll just tell you all happy spring break.
You too.
You too.
Thank